This is on my top 10 list of scenes that went on for too fucking long. Let's talk about Saltburn. Is this the Saltburn outfit? I think I'm going to do an outfit change. This is some Victoria's Secret, not sponsored. Just a very private school smell, you know. I really should have put my tea in a champagne flute for this video. I'm wondering if it's too late. My booze cabinet. The only reason that worked is because my tea is so cold. I have to actually take these off. I can't see anything. I can't read my notes with these on. Okay, so let's talk about Saltburn. My notes are down there, so if I keep looking that way, just it's fine. So first things first is I watched this with my parents. My recommendation would be don't do that. That was the worst decision I've maybe ever made. I like to go into films raw because I think that trailers and knowing too much about a film just like ruins the experience. So I generally like to know the least amount possible before I go and watch anything, really. But my advice to you would be, even if you know nothing about the film, do not watch it with your family. Learn from my mistakes. I'll do a little spoiler-free overview of everything, and then I will tell you when to click out if you don't want spoilers. I'm not going to tell you like absolutely every detail, but this will be quite a thorough review. So if you, and like a play-by-play of what happens. So if you don't want to know, if you just want to go and watch it and come back to this video later, do that. So Saltburn sits somewhere between black comedy and psychological or erotic thriller. It follows the story of an outcast student at Oxford University who becomes infatuated with Jacob Elordi, like all mere mortals would, a wealthy student who invites him to spend the summer at his stately home, Saltburn. It's written, directed, and produced by Emerald Fennell. She's a multi-hyphenate. She's an actor, writer, director, and probably many other things because she's incredibly talented, and I love her. She was also Camilla Parker Bowles in The Crown, if you've seen that. I haven't, but I know who she is. And of course, we love to see female directors getting more opportunities in the industry. That is great. So celebrations all round so far. It also has an established cast with Barry Keoghan as our leading man, who has a great resume, though personally I'd not seen him in anything. Killing of the Sacred Deer is like top of my list for films that I need to watch this year that I have not yet watched. But yeah, I'm on it. Of course, we have Euphoria's Jacob Elordi with a British accent. And you know what? He gives a flawless British accent, actually. He does a real good, like, Oxford pretentious wanker. He nails it. And then we have other big names like Carey Mulligan and Rosamund Pike, who perfectly encapsulates that soft, posh, faux friendliness of the upper echelons. And honestly, she had me cackling. She nailed it. So with all that said, let's get into my actual notes on the film. If you don't want spoilers, click out now, no worries, and I will see you soon. Am I a glasses person? I feel like no. I feel like hats are more my thing. So we start with our main character, Oliver, mostly in voiceover, talking about his conflicting feelings of love for Felix Catton, Jacob Elordi, before our title screen. These confessional scenes are spliced throughout the movie, but we don't know who he's talking to until the end. Just a side note, but when this began, when the film started, it took us a minute to realize that our TV was actually on in Spanish, and I missed everything that he said. But I got the gist. We then move to Oxford University 2006, where our northerner is arriving and immediately feels like an outcast. I know that Prescott is not really the north, but I'm a Londoner, so to me, everything north of the Thames is the north. I just want to repeat again that Jacob Elordi's accent is so good. He makes the perfect Oxford wanker. I'm not convinced on the eyebrow piercing, though it is 2006, so maybe he gets a pass. But his teeth are too perfect for him to be British. I stand by it. Also, Ewan Mitchell, what the fuck are you doing here? It was really nice to see him in more comedic scenes, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you later this year. So just before we get into the kind of play-by-play, I just want to mention the cinematography. This film is beautifully shot. The aesthetic of the film is kind of dark academia meets sex education, probably. Maybe Euphoria meets Bulldog Club. But the clubbing scenes look just as tragic as clubbing in the UK actually is. The film also uses a more square framing. Fennell mentioned in a Vanity Fair interview, which was so interesting. I could listen to her talk forever, and I'll link it down below if you want to listen to her break down the opening scenes of the film. But she talked about how they used the square framing, because if they used a longer frame, they would cut off the ceilings and the beautiful like alfrescoes and the heights of the room, or like alfrescoes and the square framing really helps to capture the magic of the environment. But also I think it makes it feel like a period piece. You know, it is set in 2006, which, yeah, let's not talk about that as a period piece. Anyway, Jacob Elordi is this wealthy, gorgeous, popular boy at Oxford University who obviously comes from a very privileged background. And Oliver is not so much those things. And we learn a lot about his troubling background throughout the early scenes of the film. Apparently troubled. We'll come back to that. There's an excellent soundtrack in this film. It's just great. It really suits the aesthetic that this film is going for. And This Modern Love by Block Party is like one of my favorite songs ever because it's very nostalgic and it reminds me of a playlist my boyfriend made me. So cute, I know. Anyway, the first half an hour of the film is pretty fast. It covers a lot of ground. We see a really terse friendship and the falling in and out of favor between the two boys. We see this kind of imbalance that the wealth and the upbringing have had on their friendship. Oliver has these clear jealousies of Felix's popularity, wealth, and his sexuality, his sexual power. My dad actually noticed that the film had big, talented Mr. Ripley energy, and I agree. I love that film. That's one of my favorite films of all time, and it's the same kind of vibe. There's something sexy and erotic and obsessive about the way that Oliver is drawn to Felix. Despite Felix growing increasingly irritated with Oliver, he does feel for him. Again, he's from a very poverty-stricken background. He talks about apparent poverty and difficult home life seem to contribute to his difficulties fitting in. Whilst the other students party at the end of the year, the two boys sit outside in the cold, dark English grounds, dressed in their suit and ties. They talk about Oliver's newly dead dad, his mum's addiction problems, and how he never wants to go home. After tossing a stone in the river in memory of Oliver's dad, Felix invites him to spend the summer at the family home in Saltburn. Also, side note, but I love the name Saltburn. That is such a beautiful name that just exactly encompasses like the pain and the searingness of the environment. Cue Oliver's arrival at the big house. Can I just say, not to flex, but your girl could have gone to Oxford, and I went for the open day and I was like, not this. I'm watching this film, I was like, this is exactly what I feared and why I didn't go, because I could not be dealing with these kinds of people and this kind of like, it's just not me. Simultaneously, this is also my dream house. It's the kind of wealth that most of us will never know, complete with a creepy butler, marble busts, suits of armor, and a giant garden maze. Remember that for later. Felix takes us on a tour of the house, completely unaffected by the grandeur as only the super rich can be. And then it's time to meet the family. They are as charming, superficial, insincere, cold, and phony as you'd imagine. I hate to admit it, but Rosalind Pike is me. When she says, "Oh, darling, I have an absolute fear of ugliness." Me? That's literally me. Felix's family are so unbearable and, I guess, out of touch, that as a viewer, it seems that Oliver must have some kind of masochistic need to be loved or accepted that makes him refuse to see that they all kind of suck. In my notes, I wrote, "Is this a white person's Get Out?" This brings us to the bathtub scene. The first of a few, but this one is definitely the worst. This is the bathtub scene. I'm not going to tell you what happens. All I'm going to say is that this is where we see that the obsession that Oliver has progressed to a level that is filthy, deranged, debauched. This really marks a moment in the film where the power starts to shift. The power dynamic between them starts to shift. Oliver starts to get cocky. He starts to get comfortable. And the sexual energy that really pushes this story forward really erupts from this point onwards. Once Oliver gets a taste of what it's like to live at Saltburn and really starts to assert his position in the house, this brings us on to, oh my god, the period scene, which is really what I've labelled it in my notes. Oliver has this scene with Venetia. I'm not really sure how you say her name because I'm not posh enough. Venetia, something like that, who's Felix's sister. Oliver is not only showing this like want to sexually dominate Felix, but also his sister, also other members of the family. Again, not going to show it here, but all I'm going to say is that this dark side of Oliver is slowly revealed through this section of the film. His need for sexual dominance, his compulsive need to lie, all of that comes to the fore as he ingratiates himself into this family. There's like a building of sexual tension that happens, and this is all brought to a head when Felix, potentially out of kindness, but also potentially sick of the intruder in his house, Felix takes him home to Oliver's home in Prescott. And we find that all the stuff about his family, about his poor background, about his mother being a drug addict, about his dead dad, BS. All of that is a lie. And he is caught red-handed by a lovely middle-class couple, dad very much alive, who invite Felix and Oliver into the house. Felix's mother had already suggested having a birthday party for Oliver, and Felix agrees to keep his shameful secret on the condition that Oliver leaves after the birthday party, because Felix is embarrassed. Felix doesn't want his family or his mother to know that they've all been taken in by this freak. And now we come to the birthday party, which means it's time for a quick change. The party's theme is Midsummer Night's Dream. We have up here in homage the complete works of Shakespeare. And that's an excellent party theme. I'll definitely be borrowing that in future. Also, it's like getting really dark. I think it's gonna rain. Oh, it is raining. I should have filmed this earlier, but I don't live alone, so what can you do? This is just water now, I promise. So the party is huge, but the boys are burst. They've fallen out. Oliver tries to make things right, but the illusion is shattered, and Felix is just over him. He wants nothing to do with this boy. Let's talk about the moment where everyone sang Oliver happy birthday, and he was in a room of like 100 people all singing him happy birthday, and no one knew his name. The stuff of nightmares. That was cursed. Cursed as fuck. And throughout this whole scene, you're not sure which way the dagger's going to fall. Someone's going to suffer, we just don't know who. Oliver follows Felix into the maze that I mentioned earlier, and they have a confrontation. We wake up the next morning and Felix is dead. The family are racked by grief and shock, and they do the only thing that they know how to do. They go to lunch. They have a big fancy lunch while their son's body is being wheeled away outside the window. They do that thing that rich people do in the face of challenge. They cling to normalcy. They don't know how to handle it, but they can't keep it up for long. Can I just say, I fucking love a dinner party scene. They are my favorite scenes in films in general. Like, there is nothing I love more in this world. You just know it's going to be good. And it is. They have this very awkward dinner. You can see the pain at the table while they're all trying to cover up their emotions. The curtains are drawn, leaving them all drenched in red, whilst the body is wheeled out past the window. Felix is dead, and the family don't know how to cope with the loss of Felix, except to keep Oliver around. This brings us to the graveyard scene. The infamous graveyard scene. I'm sure if you've seen anything over the internet about this film, it's probably about the graveyard scene. Obviously, I can't show it. He took the rich seriously. I'm just going to read you my notes on this bit. I wrote, "You leave that boy's grave alone, you freak." Horrific. I called it. I watched this with my parents. Don't do that. And this is on my top 10 list of scenes that went on for too fucking long. That's all I'm going to say about that. Go and watch it for yourself. This is closely followed by my second favourite scene in the movie after the dinner table scene, which is Venetia, whatever her name is, the sister's bath scene. 12 out of 10. She ate that. Oliver comes to talk to Venetia while she's having I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but we'll go with it. Oliver comes to talk to Venetia in the bathtub and try and seduce her, but she sees through him and she confronts Oliver. She knows that he's a little spider. crawling up inside that family. And I was absolutely floored by how good this was. In a sea of incredible performances, this was my absolute favourite. Despite being one of the smaller names on the cast list, Alison Oliver completely owned that. Like, it's so good. She calls him out and she's over his bullshit. And how is she found the next morning? You guessed it. As I said, I don't want to ruin the whole film for you, but I will say that after this point, the family is slowly picked off one by one as it's revealed that not only is Oliver a master manipulator, a compulsive liar, and a greedy social climber, but he won't let anyone stand in the way of his ambitions. The movie ends with the most beautifully perfect song choice, which I won't play for copyright reasons, but oh my god, it's perfect. And I also can't show it. Again, there's so much of this film that I can't show, but it's fine. It's fine. I can't show it for obvious reasons, but I'll insert this to give the same energy. We see a naked Oliver dancing through the holes. The holes? We see a naked Oliver dancing through the halls. We see a naked Oliver dancing through the halls of Saltburn, following the inverse route of Felix's original tour, having successfully manipulated, plotted, and murdered his way to all the grandeur he could ever have dreamed of. We hear Oliver give one final, pleasurable exhalation of breath as the screen cuts to black. Well, that was Saltburn. What did I think? I mean, it's been pretty divisive online, but I absolutely loved it. Modern cinema is so boring, and I love seeing studios taking risks. I love seeing things that are new and fresh and, aren't just like a biopic or a superhero film. Like, I loved that it was so original, it was so new. It was done in a way where I was completely kept guessing for the whole film. I loved it. I mean, aside from the incredible acting, the cinematography, the soundtrack, all the rest of it, I loved the darkness of it, the dark sexual debauchery of it. I loved the sexuality, the shock factor. I know that some people don't really like shock factor in films, but I liked it. I thought it was good. It was interesting. And like the graveyard scene, my jaw was on the floor. Like, I was audibly gasping at points in this film, and I love that. I felt like it gave just the right amount of camp to kind of balance the darker tones and aspects of it. I kind of wished more had been made of the murders themselves, but that wasn't really the point of the show. Sorry, I'm in actor mode. That wasn't really the point of the show. It was more about Oliver. It wasn't really about the murders. It was about his greed and his lust and his obsession with getting that lifestyle that he dreamed of. And I think if they'd have made more of the murders, they would have lost some of that kind of campy, fun tone of it. I like the way that they kind of swept past the murders, actually, because it feels like they're not that important to Oliver, and they're not. It's not that he's obsessed with murder, it's that he's obsessed with Saltburn. That is the thing that he yearns for, that position, that power that he has seen in Felix. That's what he's in love with, and that's what he covets for himself. And I think if they'd have focused any more on the murders, you would have lost that. But yeah, I love the soundtrack. I love the darkness of it. I love the whimsy of it. I love the aesthetic. That was a big winner for me. I thought that was really fun. And yeah, I loved it. I give it 4.5 out of 5 bathtubs because I feel like the graveyard scene was too damn long. But that's it from me. Let me know if you like this review. This is my first one, so I'm not exactly sure. I'm kind of figuring my way with like formatting and stuff like that. Again, like, sorry, I kind of lost the light. But it is winter in the UK and it gets dark at so it's literally 2:45 now and it's this dark. So sorry. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed that. Let me know what you thought of Saltburn, and let me know any other films or TV shows or anything that you would like to see reviewed on this channel. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Love ya. Bye. Love you, Mumsy. Love you. Bye, bye, bye. I mean, look how pretty this book is. It's gold. It's gold. This book. Oh, fitting. It's from Oxford University Press. This book is from 1930. Wow. I give this film 4.5 out of 5 dancing naked Olivers because it was great, but they lost half a point because the graveyard scene was too fucking long.